Hello. Welcome to Season 2 of the Jimbo channel. I've been gone for a while. I've said I was going to do a lot of things. I half-assed a lot of things. But in my defense, in the past month, I have gotten sick, had computer issues, had internet trouble. I couldn't even stream if I wanted to. And I, without doxing too much of myself, I manage a retail location, and it is currently December 2nd. I want to die. But anyways, I'm back now, kind of, sort of. I've decided I'm gonna make lazy videos. I feel like that's not the right way of saying it. Like, I don't mean lazy, like I'm gonna put minimum effort in because I'm still gonna edit this shit. What I mean is, like, before I was planning on making these, like, highly edited video essays, like my Sandstorm one, but even better. And I had a few that were like that, and I worked on them for weeks, months. And then eventually I decided that I just wasn't happy with the output. Like, I put way too much time into a product that I just felt wasn't structured right. So doing these kind of shorter, more free-form videos gives me a little bit more freedom, if that makes sense. And I have a different camera now. You can see it. The quality has improved a lot. You can see kind of my garbage. Just ignore my garbage. Don't worry about what's in that door. There's nothing in there. Okay, so the point of today's video is food sucks. Like, a lot. And I was originally going to make a tier list. And I kind of did make one. Like, I threw one together. And I'm going to go through that with you. But I just kind of want to address, like, there's an overwhelming amount of shit food in this game. Like, a lot, really. Ever since 3.0, like, some foods give you stat bonuses, which is great. It's fantastic. You can stack them with a potion. You can do whatever you want. Other foods are just bad. Like, if you think about it, you know, like, sure, something you whip up on a campfire isn't going to be as good as something you can make on a stove. Yeah, but let's go through. Let's dissect. Let's take a quick look. Originally, this was also going to be a highly edited video. I was going to make, like, fancy graphics and everything. And I was going to do, like, pretty much like a custom, like, fully designed image frame for each food that I'm ranking as I'm ranking it. But there are 109 foods in the game. And that's factoring out, like, drinks, because I wouldn't consider those food. Things that you just never should eat, like putrid meat. So this is just like foods, things you can eat for sustenance without completely adverse side effects. So I've narrowed it down to 109, and yeah, let's just go through them real quick. Starting off the list, I want to start with fish. We're going to start with fish first. And for the fish, they're broken into two categories. We have improved fish trap fish, normal fish. The improved fish trap ones all give bonuses. You've got some that give you bonus health, bonus strength damage, bonus agility damage, bonus carry weight, all sorts of good stuff. I originally put them as A tier on my list because I was thinking, like, you know, they're kind of a chore to get, but a lot of people have argued with me saying that no, that's an S tier because they're not actually that hard once you get the traps, and yeah, okay. We'll call them an S. So, fish, improved fish, S tier. Normal fish are D tier. Moving on, let's do normal meat. Just normal, plain old schmeats. We've got feral flesh, savory flesh, exotic, and exquisite. So let's start. I'm not counting the raw ones. You shouldn't eat the raw ones. I'm just counting cooked ones. So I'm going to put shredded roast as a C tier because it's like the easiest meat to get. It's not the worst thing, but it's not the best thing. It's average. So that's where that's going to sit. I'm moving on. Down from that, I'm going to put cooked exquisite meat as a D tier. And the reason for that is because you can get better if you just add, like, salt or something. Exquisite is a lot harder to get. It's probably the most uncommon of the core meats. So just wasting it if you cook it normally, that's a D tier right away. On the flip side, however, I'm going to put in A tier the steak and the haunch, because both are very, very rock solid for early to mid game. You don't have to add anything extra to them. You get a good amount of sated, good filling. They're just there for you all the time. It's comfort food. Now let's talk about some dried foods. So let's start off with dried berries, dried fish, and dried meat. All E tier. They're not horrible. Like, they're something you could eat. I would consider dried berries an ingredient more than a food themselves, but I mean, you do you. If you're going to end up with a lot of them if you're farming anyways. So they're all E tier. It's something that you could make, and they're not too bad. They'll last forever, but why? You're just wasting bark. Make something else. Speaking of berries, though, raw berries, also E tier. They give you a little bit of thirst, and if you're running around Noob River, your options are bugs or berries. Pick the berries every time. That's an E. Now let's take a look at some of the things that I would consider technically food, but I wouldn't ever possibly recommend eating. We got aloe. Just make it into potions. Don't eat aloe. That's an F. Normal eggs. It's an ingredient, not a food. Don't eat those. That's also an F. A fat grub, please. Whatever you do, don't eat that. That's an F. Normal gruel. You're not a thrall. Don't eat that. That's an F. Flavored gruel. It's just more expensive gruel. Don't eat that. Enhanced gruel. That's even worse. Don't eat that either. Handful of insects. It's just more bugs. Don't, like, unless you're absolutely starving. I think everyone's been there before. If you're too lazy to kill something and cook it, yeah, but it's an F. Don't eat that. Don't consider that a viable food. Salt and spice. How are these foods? You can eat them by themselves. I didn't even know that until I went to double check. You can eat them by themselves. Don't do that, though. Don't do that. Those are ingredients. Also F. Speaking of spice, though, let's go through a few of those foods, the spicy versions. Spiced haunch, that's a solid B tier. It's an improved haunch. You go up north, it keeps you warm. It's great. It's wonderful. Moving on to C tier, we get kind of the more mid ones, the lesser versions. Fowl. Why? We got pork, we got soup, and we got steaks. Those are all going to be C tiers. D tier, spiced oyster, spiced slivers. Just, you're using like the worst possible things and adding spice to it. Just get something better to put your spice on. Seriously. The unforgivables would be F tier, and that's going to be spiced egg and spicy dried fish combo. It's not worth it, especially the dried fish combo. It's so much work, and it's not worth what you get out of it. Oh yeah, and spiced exquisite, that's also going to be a C tier. Now I want to go on my first rant, and that's going to be about soup. Now bear in mind, I'm saying soup specifically, not stews. Stews are going to be a bit different, but for soups, we've got normal soup. It's iconic, it's classic, it's a C tier, it's all right. And then after that, you just have these weird, excessively convoluted, and objectively worse combinations. You got things like bone broth, lumpy soup, mystery meat soup, seed soup, rhino head soup, yellow lotus soup. Don't make these. There's so much more work. Like, you have to make the soup first and then add more things to them. And for most of them, it's the same output as a normal soup. Like, at least with spice soups, you get the warming effect. So I put it a little bit higher. But for the rest of them, you're just making soup and then adding more stuff to the soup for the same output as soup. Don't make them. Like, the only exception is rhino head soup. But then you have to fight a boss to make one. Don't do it. It's not worth having, especially because rhino head soup gives you the bonus carry weight. Just make a lasting feast instead. Don't make these. Normal soup gets a C. Everything else, F. It's just bad. I also forgot about Darfari bug soup. I'll give that one a D just because it's at least kind of creative. But still, it's not worth having. Oh yeah, an aloe soup, it helps regen stamina, but it used to have a healing effect that got removed, so it's also D tier. Don't make this. And now for the next rampage I'm about to have, honey. Honey itself, alright, it's It's an ineffective food, but it will last you forever, and it's so cheap to get. It's an E tier, not something you should eat regularly, but in a pinch you can make a bulk of it, and it will last forever before expiring. And then there's the honeyed foods. Now, I just want to stress, you need a tier 4 thrall to make any of these. You can make some of them, sure, with like a tier 1, 2, 3, but the point is you still need a thrall to get these. Like, you have to go get a cook thrall, tame them, put them in your stove to unlock these exclusive recipes. It's the only way to get them. And you think, oh, they must be better then, right? Like, I need to go get a special thrall for it. Like, if I go and I get a special thrall to make me a better weapon, it'll be better. The foods are worse. The foods are so much worse. They give no bonuses. None. Just none at all. You're making, like, the normal food, sometimes it's a hair better in terms of, like, how much it'll fill you by, like, a point or two. But you get no bonus, and it's not worth the hassle going through. It's all a solid F tier. You have to go out of your way to get a thrall specifically to make these foods, and you get nothing out of it. There's no reason to ever go out and make any of these. It's an insult, really. Like, you're better off just not bothering with a cook thrall at all. Like, they'll give you, what, better crafting speed, fuel efficiency? Just make a bigger fucking stove. Don't ever make honeyed foods. All of them, F. Speaking of things you should never, ever eat, I was thinking about even if I wanted to include this on the list, because it's such an automatic, you shouldn't ever eat this, period. A century egg. You've got a 50% chance of getting food poisoning. Don't. Just don't. Like, if you find this laying on the ground somewhere, don't pick it up. Don't eat it. If you see it in your stove, don't make it. Ever. Seriously. Like, you're just giving yourself a 50% chance of food poisoning for no reason. Don't do it. That's an F. Stop it! Religious items. We've got, I'm not talking the feast yet. I'll get to those in a bit. Flesh of Remembrance. Lingering Essence. Unblemished Human Flesh. You can eat these. You shouldn't ever eat these, but you can. Put them in your altar. Make them into their respective things. Don't put them in your mouth. Don't put them in your body. That's an F. Bees. Bees make honey. Bees should not be put in your mouth either. Also F. Okay, I've been talking about a lot of things that you shouldn't eat, and I've covered pretty much everything that's in my F tier. Let's talk about some better ones. Let's talk about the religious foods, for example, the actually processed versions. So you've got the ambrosia, and you've got the purified flesh. Both will give you stat bonuses as well. They're okay. I'm not going to say that they're as good as some of the things in my S tier, but they're definitely a very solid A tier. I'd argue that between the two of them, probably the unblemished would be better, but both are still going to be a strong A. Okay. Bread. Now, it's a little known fact about me, but I love bread in this game. I've been fighting for so long to get it improved. And there was a while where it was good. Like, they brought it up to about, like, on tier with Haunch. And it's not bad, but it doesn't give any bonus. You have to go get Leavening Agent, which is in harder areas on both maps, meaning that it's not something you can really do viably early game. It costs plant fiber, it costs seeds, and it costs this Leavening Agent in a furnace. It's such an obscure recipe that most people won't even know it exists unless they look it up. And what do you really get out of it? Nothing. No bonus. It's an alright food, but it doesn't give anything, so it's not worth the effort of going to go make. We need to make bread great again. Let's just start spamming. Mga. Make bread great again. Now let's talk about some genuinely good foods. We've got feasts. Just normal feasts. I'm not talking the religious ones yet. I'll get to that in a bit. But the just normal feasts, it's a spread. So starting with C tier, we've got a couple. We've got Sumerian Feast, again, I'm weighting these based on how convoluted they are to make versus what you get out of it. So Sumerian Feast, Pharaoh Feast are both going to be C tier because it takes actually quite a bit to make them, and these ones don't give bonus. A tier, we've got Hearty Feast. This one, I kind of wanted to put it as an S tier, but it's just not quite as good as the other ones. But the S ones, the big boys, this is half of the S tier foods in the entire game. Those are going to be Exotic Feast, Lasting Feast, and Savory Feast. They will give you bonus strength weapon damage, bonus carry weight, and bonus concussive damage. These are all very strong bonuses. If you can make these, make them. Especially with Exotic Feast also being the best healing food for thralls. If you're feeling bougie, give it to them. Make some for yourself too. This is just great food all around. Go for it. S tier. I'm really bad at this list. I did also forget Cooked Pork Feast. It's a D tier. It's alright, but again, no bonus on this one, and it's just a lot of work to make. Don't make it. Salted Berries. It's like dried berries, but worse. Still an E tier, though. Could be worse. Did you know that a heart of a hero can actually give you food as well? I actually had to look that up. It's a food, technically. It's going to get an E tier as well, but not because it's an alright food. It's nothing you should ever viably eat. It only stacks to 1, and you have to fight a specific boss to get it. But it removes corruption, like all of it. So, especially now with 3.0, it's decent. It's okay. It's not food that you should viably eat, but you can. E tier. Okay, so now for just a quick spread, we've got cooked pork rinds, B tier. Cooked pork strips, B tier. Cooked human flesh, D tier. Cooked abysmal meat, cooked egg, E tier. Why would you cook an egg? Just put it in a feast. Speaking of eggs, we get an E for Egg Surprise. It's a slightly less bad century egg. Don't eat this either, though. It's a waste of an egg. Now, I've already covered soups, but there is a few stews as well. We've got hearty stew, which is a pretty alright thing. You get food, you get water. It's a B tier. It's inoffensive. In the E tier, however, we've got chili, desert style. It takes specific rare spices to get the warming effect. Just go make like a normal spiced thing. And mushroom stew. Why? Don't eat that. Speaking of rare spice, though, fiery hots. Fiery hot food, we've got grubs, meat soup, and sea fish feast. All the fiery hots, E tier. Fiery hot bread, I'm going to give that a D just because, I don't know, I want bread to be better, and this is an excuse for it to be slightly less awful, but it's still a D tier. Blood sausage and demon blood sausage. So blood sausage is going to get a B tier. It's cheap. You take human flesh, fluid press it, and then cook it. It's one step removed from cannibalism, so it's okay. Demon blood sausage, however, it takes demon blood. That's so much. Like, no. E tier. I don't have any of these in order. I'm just scrolling through and marking off which ones I've talked about. Exquisite stew is another stew that I completely forgot about. That is a B tier. It's not bad. Okay, so this is going to be kind of a grab bag to kind of clean up a few of the ones I still haven't got. Steak and eggs. Not bad. C tier. It's like most of a feast. Just commit the extra bit. Roasted mushrooms. It's just what it says. C tier. Meat strips. C. Fish strips. C. Bug kebab. You put these bugs that are an F on a stick and all of a sudden they're a C tier. Go for it. Meaty mashup and mixed meat scraps. They're all right. They're not something that, you should be actively going out and getting, but the option is there, and so they're a B tier. There's a few salted foods that I still haven't covered, and this is going to make up the remainder of the S tier, but not all of them are S tier. Starting at D tier, we have bush jerky. It's all right. Moving on to A tier, we have trail jerky, which is just the better version of it. But the primo stuff, the good stuff, the stuff you really want to make, these are all S tier. We've got salted exquisite, salted pork, and savory jerky. Fantastic stuff. They'll give you the bonuses. They're cheap. Do it. Make these. Eat these foods. These are good foods. Thumbs up. Oyster and oyster omelet. Both are going to get a D tier. oysters are kind of a weird one. Like, there's no way to consistently get them. You get them as a drop. That's weird. It's not something that you can, like, sustainably mass produce, but they're okay. D tier. And finally, to round out this list, we have the religious feasts. These are the last items in this list, and now I will explain why I left them for last. So, full disclaimer, I want these to be good. I want these to be all S tier winners, but they're not. None of these are S tier. They're all kind of sprinkled throughout the middle, and you don't really get too much with them. Like, some of them are best in slot for sated bonuses, amount of hunger and thirst filled from one thing. They'll last a while. They're all around. They're good as foods, but they don't have bonuses that are really viable. So none of them really get an S for that, honestly. Like, when you have something that gives you over 100 food, your hunger meter only goes to 100. It's just overkill at that point. Like, yeah, you're getting the sated, which is great for a passive heal, but is it worth all that extra effort? So starting from the bottom, we've got Yogg and Mitra. Those are both going to be D tier. Those better ones you can make. Durketo and Ymir are going to be C tier. B tier is going to be Jebel Sag. And finally, Set is going to be A tier. And the reason I have them all spread out is because there's multiple factors. So with all of these, the main things I'm looking at is the amount of, like, steps and cost to getting them. So obviously, if something is made of way more difficult to get or harder to bulk materials, it better be worth that amount of effort. And for a lot of these, it's just simply not. They're weighted on that. They're weighted on any sort of bonuses you get, how long they last, how much they fill, the sated, all that. So if you disagree with me, make your own list. I don't care. Fight with me. Point at something that I said that's wrong and tell me why I'm wrong. I dare you. Because the way I see it, this is how it sits. There's a grand total of 6 foods that are S tier. And then on the other side, you just have an overwhelming amount that are F tier, and then just kind of a scattering in the middle of foods. It was like, why make them? Take some salt, take some meat, make yourself some salted exquisite if you're an agility build, or salted pork if you're a strength build. Just make these instead. It's cheap, you get a fantastic bonus, and they'll last you a decent while. And with that, my tier list is done. It's not going to be like a super fancy thing. I've been recording for about 30 minutes. I'm probably going to edit this down to significantly less time than that, but that's fine. But I just kind of want to go on one final tangent about what all of this means for the future of Conan Exiles. We need to see a severe food rework. We need a lot of these food options to be more viable. Why are there so many soups when they all give the exact same bonus as normal soup? Like, exact to the dot. Why? We don't need like 30,000 different soup recipes that all do the exact same thing. Give us differentiators. Give more foods bonuses. Like, yeah, we can have some good foods that are like a plus 15% weapon damage. But even if you sprinkle in like a 5%, 10% on some of the more mediocre foods, make it worth it. And the honeyed foods. I think this is a travesty. You need a cook thrall. These should be the tops. They should be like, oh, I gotta go find a cook thrall so I can get the best foods. But they're not. They're terrible. So these, I think, are definitely the main focus things that need to be revised. And then everything else just needs to be looked at. Give us a reason to want these foods. Because right now, I'm not very hungry.